body and the mind would save the world. From time to time today, we will repeat it as we reach another stage of learning. It will mean far more to you as you advance. These words are sacred, for they are words the Creator gave in answer to the world you made with your perception. By these words, the world you made with your perception disappears, and all things seen within its misty clouds and vaporous illusions will vanish as these words are spoken. For these words come from the Creator. I am as the Creator created me. Here is the word by which the offspring of creation became creation's happiness, his love, his completion. Here, creation is proclaimed and honored as it is. There is no dream that these words will not dispel. There is no thought of sin and no illusion which the dream contains that will not fade away before the might of these words. These words are the trumpet of awakening that sounds around the world. The dead awake in answer to this call, and those who live and hear this sound will never look on death. Holy indeed is he or she who makes these words their own, arising in them in his mind or her mind, recalling them throughout the day, and at night bringing them with her as she goes to sleep. The person who uses these words has dreams that are happy and rest that is secure. They have safety that is certain, and their body is healed because they sleep and awaken with the truth before them always. Today we practice simply, for the words we use are mighty and they need no thoughts beyond themselves to change the mind of she who uses them. So wholly is it changed, so completely is it changed, that it is now the treasury in which the Creator places all its gifts and all its love to be distributed to all the world, increased in the giving and complete because its sharing is unlimited. Thus you learn to think with the Creator. The Christ vision has restored your sight by salvaging your mind. We honor you today. Yours is the right to perfect holiness that you now accept. With this acceptance is salvation brought to everyone, for who could cherish sin when holiness like this has blessed the world? Who could have despair when perfect joy is theirs, available to all as a remedy for grief and misery, a remedy for all sense of loss and for all complete escape from sin and guilt? And who could not bother, and who would not be brother to you now? You, the Redeemer of your brother and sister. Who could fail to welcome you into his or her heart with loving invitation, eager to unite with one like herself in holiness? You are as the Creator created you. These words dispel the night, and darkness is no more. Light is come today to bless the world, for you have recognized the offspring of creation, and in that recognition is the world's recognition. We're also doing the Course in Miracles experiment with Pam Grout, and in that book, Lesson 162 reads, her title is Dear Depression, Kiss My Beautiful Truth-Proclaiming Ass. She quotes A Course in Miracles as saying, it gives its strength to everyone who asks in limitless supply. Pam writes, a person very close to me is struggling with depression. Since I used to believe that I too had depression, to borrow a Prince moniker, I now refer to myself as Joy previously masquerading as sorrow. So I wrote this person the following letter. Dear so-and-so, I've been thinking a lot about your depression because I've also suffered from the debilitating dis-ease. I feel that I can understand and perhaps help in some way. Here is what I know. The one thing wrong, in quotes, when I'm depressed is my thoughts. My thoughts start their incessant yammering, telling me I'm bad, that something is wrong with me, that life is hopeless. But what I now believe with complete certainty is that these thoughts are false. They are the tool of what I call the ego. The truth that I am as creation, or the dude created me, Course in Miracles, Lesson 162. This truth is stronger than those erroneous thoughts. At any time I can throw those thoughts overboard because they are powerless. They are as insignificant as a dandelion blowing in the wind. Luckily, I'm now able to laugh in the face of those thoughts. They are simply not true, and I refuse to buy into them. I am promised an abundant life, a life of joy, purpose, and peace. That's the only capital T truth. Thoughts of worthlessness are imposters. They get away with their bald-faced lies to the extent that I let myself believe them. They have no power except the power I give them. Quite frankly, I view them now as downright ridiculous. There is no way I can be worthless or bad or unloved. As for ego, it can kiss my beautiful, adorned by the source butt. So that's Pam's thoughts on Lesson 162. I am as I was created to be. And that's the commentary from the Course in Miracles Workbook Lesson. And we have 48 minutes left to talk, to listen, to debate, to question. How can we support you? What's on your mind today? Today is a Friday, which means last night we had another support group. And we, what did we do last night? We watched, we got a preview of the Diedrich Wolsack interview that I did with him that'll get published this next Tuesday on on journeystream.org/podcasts. And we had one of our group members do a rather powerful worksheet. So all kinds of stuff is bubbling up for a lot of people. And we have 45 or 46 minutes left to help you entertain your comments or your questions, to raise a topic for discussion. Welcome, Susan.
Hi, Dr. Tim. If it's okay, I have questions and follow-up stuff from yesterday with my grandson. I did some worksheets, and what I wanted from him was for him to wake up. Well, I feel as if I'm only just beginning to wake up, and the thought occurs to me that maybe I haven't waked up yet, and I'm still alive. My biggest fear in the worksheet is that he's not going to do well in life. He's going to be like his father, which it appears that in many ways he is, and that he's going to end up badly. And I want him to wake up. So it was quite a wake-up call to realize that I'm not waked up, and that spent my whole life in stages of unwakenness and did very well anyway. And so I thought perhaps that may be true for him, because like today's lessons, he is as God created him. So I don't have to worry so much and can get more peaceful and be a more creative person. So I wrote a long journal letter to him, which I did not send, and it's a good thing. Today I felt clear enough to say, okay, Jacob Boone, we have to talk. Yesterday could have gone better. What do you say? He wrote back, said, yeah, I'm really sorry for everything, which is also part of the pattern. Have a blowout, apologize profusely, wait a while, have a blowout, apologize. So, I'm taking all that in perspective. But he said, I'll call later. Yeah, I'd like to talk. So that's where we are. But I have a question. You raised the excellent point that Tim and I are supporting him in whatever he's doing, some of which is very negative. And we are tacitly supporting him by continuing with the allowance. But it also occurs to me that this is a boy who was punished so often by a rageaholic father that when he is not in his rage and not acting on stage or performing, where he is just amazingly powerful, he is the most frightened. The grandson.
Okay.
He is a very
when
frightened.
He's not in a rage. Let me just clear it up. When he's not in a rage, and when he's not on stage performing in his true element of being a performance artist, then he is what?
Frightened of making a decision. This is just one example. I went with him when he was going to college for the first time. We did a grocery shop to set him up in his dorm. They had a little kitchen. Decide between two kinds of cereal, and stood really paralyzed because he couldn't decide which kind of cereal or which can of soup he should get. And I was amazed at how scared he seemed, and he said, yeah, I'm so afraid I'm going to make a mistake. So my thought is, and it may be wrong.
There's a Guy Finley talk. There's a Guy Finley talk.
Okay.
And in it, he brings out the mama, MOMMA.
Okay.
Or MAMMA. Make as many mistakes as allowable. MMAA.
Ah, nice.
And an infinite number are allowable.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
And so for anybody like that believes that they are frozen in decision making because they think they're frozen because they're afraid to make a mistake, it's really good to let them know this is a deep spiritual and psychological truth that people who do not make mistakes don't have success.
Great.
If you want to have success, you got to find a way to get comfortable making mistakes, what you call mistakes.
Yeah. Commenting too. So that's good. In light of his fearfulness, though, I'm afraid to punish him. I'm afraid taking away an allowance, even though he has a job, but it doesn't cover his needs. And his needs include a medical marijuana card and medical marijuana for anxiety. He's not under the care of a doctor who is prescribing this, though. He is conscientious and careful and has figured out what he needs to be okay and does his best, as far as I know. He has told me this. I'm not sure he's telling the truth, but he's told me that he's taking only as much as he barely needs to take the edge off. But it's expensive. And so I thought, I want to talk to him. I want to tell him what I expect from him to be a responsible adult in the household and never, ever, ever go into the behavior that his father does and talk to him about the power person. I've done that before. I think he gets it already. But to tell him, we'll continue the allowance, but I want good reports from him or his mother, and I just am going to trust him that he'll do those things, but I'm not going to stop the allowance. To me, right now, that seems like my best thought, but I wanted to run it by you.
So if it goes wrong, you can blame me?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so
you can
as we were talking, well, as we were talking about yesterday, this is a really complex set of issues, right? And there are people involved that I don't know anything about, and there are family dynamics. So you're doing the right thing to use your judgment. So let's just begin with that. This is a very complex thing. And I was going to say this when you said that you want to tell him to never, ever exhibit the behaviors that his father did. Please don't say that.
Okay. See?
Why?
Good.
Why? Because you're giving him an impossible task, right? It's if Dr. Michael Ryce were here, he'd give you the lecture about how if it's in you and it gets resonated, you don't have any choice about feeling it, right? And so the chances are he's going to get triggered and do the power person behaviors. So if you want to talk with him about that, good, give him the explanation, and then strongly encourage him to choose differently when he sees himself or somebody points out to him that he's doing those behaviors that are like his father. Because in the beginning, he really isn't going to have any ability to stop that. Right? It's going to flare up. It's going to get triggered by the patterns in the family and you know the intimate relationships he has with his mother and other people in the house and you and Tim. So to say to him, don't you ever do this behavior, is just old stuff. That's part of the, I'm trying to control things I don't have any control over. So far more useful is to say, look, when this happens and you catch yourself, here's a set of tools you can use. And please, Diedrich Wolzak was saying this last night, there's a difference between being gentle with yourself and giving yourself permission to do harmful things. So we don't want you to make excuses about it. When these anger urges come up, when you get angry, when you rage, as soon as you can, catch it, take full responsibility for it, and use the tools. Right? That's a better way to say it. It gives him something that he can work on, work with, work towards. But to say to somebody, don't you ever do the behavior that your power person did, you're just setting yourself and them up for failure.
You just sounded exactly like my mother. I don't want you to ever do that again. Yeah. Okay, thank you for mirroring my mom back to me.
There you go.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Tim.
And then whatever you do with the money, right, is between you and Tim. And I would one other shift I would make in the way you were talking about it is that to withhold allowance from him is not a punishment, right? This is a gift you're giving him. And if you want to change it from a gift to a reward, then it's important to be clear about what are the behaviors expected to earn the reward.
That's a very interesting point.
And it's important not to mix the two up.
Right. Okay.
So, to break it down and just make it really simple, in some families, there is no such thing as allowance. People are given food and clothes and shelter and education, and they're participating in recreational activities, and in going to a movie or eating out at a restaurant or going to an amusement park is just given as part of membership in the family, right? And it happens no matter what. And in other families, they have, we don't do allowance, and we expect people to contribute, pull their fair share of chores around the house, making beds and cleaning rooms and mowing lawns and taking out garbage and things like that, doing dishes. And we give people an allowance based on their age and their needs so they can have some practice with how to use discretionary income. Mm-hmm. But we tell them, this is very limited. It's going to be this amount each week, and it's up to you to budget it if you want to, or blow it all right away at the beginning of the week and then have nothing left. But there won't be any advances on future allowances and stuff like that, because this is an exercise in you learning to establish your relationship with money. And that allowance in some of those situations is given, and it's independent of the person's behavior. And in other cases, the allowance is tied directly to certain chores that are done. And when you do this chore, you get 25 cents. And when you do this chore, you get another 25 cents. And when you mow the lawn, you get $5, etc. But the chore has to be done to the level of expectation of the parent who is supervising that chore. And if it isn't done to their expectation, you don't get the full amount, or you don't get anything until it's done to their expectation. So I would caution you against mixing those things up, right? Either give it to him and he's getting it no matter what, just because he's part of the family, which might mean, you're giving him a subsistence level, like you give him food and clothes and shelter and education. And if in some families that allowance is part of that, and it's very modest, or you give it to him because he's earned it by doing certain very specific things, and you don't give it to him when he hasn't done those things.
Yeah, well, that's going to be complicated if we do that arrangement, because it would mean relying on reports from him and his mother. And he really resents it if there is triangulation going on. And there is. Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's his generating resentment, right? That's not you causing resentment in him. Let's just be clear about that. We talked about that yesterday, too. And there are simple ways around that, right? If you're saying, this is too complicated, okay, then give the money to his mother and let her decide what he gets and doesn't get.
Yeah.
Right? If she would like to be able to do that, but she doesn't have the income and you want to support her, then support her by giving her the money. And she stays the authority in the house. And she stays the gatekeeper for whether or not he has earned and therefore receives these various levels of financial reward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? If the real thing is we want to get Grandma and Grandpa out of the picture so it's not so complicated, there are ways to do that. One way is to just stop giving the money altogether and let him figure out a way to make what he needs now that he's 21. Another way is to give the money to the adult, the head adult in the family, and let her disperse it as she sees fit.
Yeah. I'll ask her about that. Their relationship is so complicated, though, that this might add another stress between them. I'm going to have to think about that, but those are all good ideas.
Well, you're on it, and that's what you need to do. You need to think about it, and you need to take into account what you know about the players and their personalities and their history, and then just, ask to be shown what's the best thing to do and follow through with it and trust it's all going to work out, which includes doing your own work and maybe redoubling some efforts to do the Pierre Pradervan Gentle Art of Blessing so that you don't spend any more time than is absolutely necessary thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to turn out just like his dad.
Oh, yeah.
It's when you catch that, and when you catch that, call a time out for yourself and shift instead to the Pierre Pradervan Gentle Art of Blessing, seeing him in his perfect wholeness, seeing him taking advantage of all the wonderful things he's seen modeled by you and Tim and his mother. Yeah, he does have the input from his father who had some serious wounds, but that does not determine who he is and what his life becomes. And there's no reason that you have to spend more than a moment past the recognition that that's what's happened in your own thought, entertaining those thoughts. As soon as you recognize...
Damn good.
Yeah. All you need, as soon as you recognize that thought has arisen, you recognize it and you choose again. There's Diedrich Wolsack's work. Choose again. Course in Miracles tells us over and over again. Choose again.
Is that what it means in the worksheet when it says, I release my story, I release my thoughts? The story should be like the responsibility communication thing. Only what could be videotaped or audio taped, the story. What actually happened, right? That's the story. And then you have your thoughts about the story.
It depends on the context that you're using. Sometimes people use the story to mean what actually happened. And sometimes they use it to mean my excuses. And in the worksheet process itself, where it says, I cancel my need to be right, I cancel my need to make up another story out of these brain cells to hallucinate the proof that my fear and hostility-based story, my reality, is true. Now we're using it in a different context, completely different meaning.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
And that's why Dr. Ryce has found it so useful to make a distinction between actuality and reality. So we get out of the whole thing about using the word story.
Yeah.
My reality is a story that my mind is making up, and it's full of actual perceptual images in my brain, but it doesn't make it the capital T truth. So my reality is my story about life and what it means. The actuality doesn't change from person to person. The reality does. The story does. So in that way, you can use the word story interchangeably with reality, meaning the perceptual reality that an individual creates.
Right. That's good.
So I would encourage you to pour some more of your own mind energy into that part of your mind that can be vigilant, and at the earliest warning sign that you are creating a thought or operating from the belief that, oh my gosh, my grandson's going to turn out exactly like his father and his life's going to be a mess, that you catch that thought, recognize the negative emotional state that arises in you when it happens, and understand that that's proof positive that this is a false belief. Right?
Yeah.
It would change your life forever.
Ah, yeah. You know, I was listening to the rest of the Pleener thing. What a blabberbeak he was. Man, he was so fluent. You hardly got a word in edgewise, and it didn't matter because he got it all across. But I thought, how exhausting. I wonder if he's like that as a therapist. It would be hard to work with him. But I was thinking... I was thinking how much I would like to have my this grandson listen to that if he could get all the way through it, or he wouldn't even need to. The points are made fairly early on, and but I'm in danger of getting into fix-it mode, really, and so anyway, this is one thought I had, that I'd like to hand this podcast over to my grandson, but maybe that's too much. He's terrible at what he eats, though. He's really hurting himself the way he eats. So anyway.
Well, I would just encourage you to do a quick breath and check in and ask to be shown what the right thing is to do. And then if you choose to share it with him, it'll be fine. And if you choose not to, it'll be fine. There's no harm in sharing. There is plenty of harm we can do to ourselves with our negative thoughts at the egoic level, and there's nothing that we can do to harm our true self no matter what. So rest in that. And understand that your desire, your intention to help is always there, and then just trust that it's going to work out no matter what, even if it's not going to work out the way your conscious logical mind is telling you it should.
That's the best part of the worksheet, is that pattern that says, I give up any goal. I give up even a goal to have a successful worksheet. I give up the goal of giving up the goal. Or whatever you said. I don't have it in front of me. But it's a total canceling of everything. So you're just left with nothing. And it's a wonderful nothing.
That's the idea. I cancel my need to be right. I cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself. I cancel the specific goal in this worksheet. I put my conscious logical mind on the shelf for now, and I ask to be shown the hidden part of my own mind that's actually creating this upset. And then I just watch, and I trust that any thoughts, any images, any physical sensations that come to mind, they're going to be part of what I need to see to begin to heal here and move forward.
Yeah.
And I just keep repeating that I cancel my need to be right, cancel my need for anyone or anything to change, including myself, and watch the magic happen when the ego gets out of the way. So, thoughts, comments, questions, answers?
No, I'm just thinking about what you said, and it's going to be very helpful to have talked to you today. I think I have some things I could say to Jake. That's good. Thanks.
You're entirely welcome and deserving. Thank you for the call.
Welcome.
So I'll mute you, and you can raise your hand again if you feel the need, and we'll open it up for somebody else.
Okay.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.
And our call-in number is 563-999-3581. And if you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. What are your thoughts, comments, questions, answers about anything we've talked about in the last 10 years or a conversation we're having with Susan about her fears about how her grandson's life is going to turn out. Or questions and comments about the worksheet. We had somebody in the group last night who did a very powerful worksheet, and we have time to either frame out some worksheets or do a quick worksheet with someone if you have any interest in that. And I think I mentioned that Diedrich Wolsack interview will be posting next Tuesday, if all goes well, in the On Your Mind podcast. You can get it at journeysdream.org/podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. And even though it's pretty much an hour long or close to an hour long, the unedited version that we shared in the group last night, people said that kind of went by in a flash. So lots of good stuff, very, very similar tool derived from the Course in Miracles, and the idea that forgiveness is about an internal process. It's never about somebody or something outside of me. And that, as I was mentioning in the interview, it's a delightful thing to get the same fundamental process discussed from a slightly different perspective. And the slightly different perspective is that Diedrich talks about, what are my core beliefs? Because my core beliefs, as long as they're there and they're in effect within me, they're going to drive the selection of the emotions and therefore the behaviors that I exhibit. And so when I don't like the emotions I'm experiencing or the behavior patterns that I'm involved in, far more useful than any behavior modification program or any other talk therapy psychology is to find a tool, and he provides a tool for this, but find a way to get access to my core belief that's driving that unpleasant or unsatisfactory behavior, and just work to dismantle the core negative and therefore false belief, and then there'll be no need for the behavior modification. Because when people are acting from the awareness of their true nature as love, they don't do self-destructive things. They don't do hurtful or abusive things in relationships. They don't ingest poisonous substances. They don't do behaviors to run away from or numb themselves to internal emotional pain, because they're not experiencing the pain when they're tapped into their true nature. So there are a number of people who are tapping into the same deeply healing process, slightly different versions, and we're grateful to be able to bring you yet another one this next Tuesday on the On Your Mind podcast. So we have 14 minutes left, or 13 or 12, something like that. 563-999-3581. Call that number, press 1, and we can have a conversation. Or you can suggest a topic. Or you can suggest a guest for us to interview or a book to read. I am working my way through the Gabor Mate book In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. And I can recommend that for you if you have a strong stomach, because here's a man who went to some of the worst, most difficult to deal with human beings in his city and made it his job to help make their lives a little bit more tolerable, and to be in the space of accepting them as valuable human beings even though they are caught in the pattern of self-abuse that is addiction. And so some of the stories are going to be difficult to hear. Yet some of the learnings that he has acquired are extraordinarily useful. And the harm reduction model that he's developed, that many places have adopted, is helping improve the life quality for people and helping people understand that it's more beneficial to treat other human beings with respect than it is to try and punish them for whatever behaviors they're doing, most of which are coming as a fairly direct result of the abuse they sustained early in life. And rather than sit in an ivory tower and judge these people as bad or wrong, he highlights his efforts and his learning from being with these people and fighting the urge to judge them negatively and as less than, and letting them be his teachers, as he studies, the pain. Instead of asking, why the abuse? Why this substance or that substance? He says, ask, why the pain? What's the source of the pain? And when we go to the source, as Dr. Michael Ryce talks about so often in his lectures, we're working at a cause level, then the changes we make are infinitely more productive. And if we stay out at the level of chasing symptoms, we're severely limiting our ability to have a positive impact. So, what's your comment? What's your question? What's on your mind? 10 minutes left. I think one of my favorite things about the process of getting suggestions from people is how much I learn, and I expand my horizons. So we have people like Corinne Zupko, who picked up A Course in Miracles and turned it into a productive set of tools for helping herself go from debilitating anxiety to a sense of love and purpose in her life. And I only found out about that book because Susan Bingham said, hey, look at this book. That led me to several others. Now somebody else listens to the show and says, hey, Dr. Tim, you sound a lot like that Diedrich guy. So I look up Diedrich, and the next thing you know, I have another tool, another slight variation on the same tool to add to my toolkit. So who do you know? What podcasts do you listen to? What books have you read recently that you think are a positive impact on your life that you want to share with us, or that you'd like to have me read and or do an interview with the author? Again, if you're listening to this on the archives, you can email those suggestions to me at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org, or you can email questions and comments to Jeanie at jeanie@mindshiftersacademy. No, at whyagain.org. Oh, I was on autopilot there. I had somebody in my office earlier today, and we were talking about the trap, the real detrimental trap of putting people up on a pedestal. and how often we're conditioned and trained to do that in our society. I mean, think of the millions of dollars that we pay athletes, and we pay actors and actresses and musicians. Just a select few in each category. And sometimes, you know, the millions of dollars we're paying one team or one athlete is determined by fractions of a second or a minute or two or a few points on a scoreboard. So the trap, the detrimental impact of putting people up on a pedestal was the topic of their conversation in a session earlier today. And one of the things that really solid research teaches us is that the lower someone's actual intelligence, the greater probability they're going to think they know more. The greater the probability they're going to overestimate their intelligence. And the more intelligent somebody is, the more likely they are to underestimate. So when you're putting somebody else up on a pedestal, in some way, aside from distorting the truth and distorting your perception, you're blocking yourself from seeing how we're all the same. And depending upon your own internal dynamics, you may be using putting somebody up on a pedestal and thinking of them as being so much better at this, that, or the other thing than you are, or having more worth as a person than you do. You might be using that to live into a false belief you have about yourself of not being worthy or not being smart enough or good enough. And as Dietrich Wolzak points out, once I hold a negative core belief, I will look for the evidence. This is exactly like Dr. Michael Ryce's work. The mind is an evidential device, and if I ask it to show me how you're the cause of the pain in my life, it will show me that evidence. Well, Dietrich Wolzak takes it another step and says, when I hold the belief that I'm a hateful person, I will end up doing behaviors that show me in my interaction with others how hateful I am, how bad I am, how wrong I am. Whether it's that I have guilt around my sexuality from some childhood or adolescent interactions, and then I grow up and I actually keep acting out in unproductive or unhealthy ways sexually, I'm going to keep providing for myself the evidence that proves this negative core belief. And the only way out of that pattern, well, the only reasonable way, according to Dietrich, is not the behavior modification. It's not locking the person up. It's not the punishment. It's to undo, to identify and then see through the false nature of the negative core belief. And once that happens, the cascading relief and change in behavior and mood and access to higher resources is amazing. But if we don't work to identify and then dismantle the false negative beliefs we have about ourselves, then we can do behavior modification until the cows come home, and it's just going to be putting a Band-Aid on a raging infection. The other thing, as I've mentioned, is that Dietrich talks about the rainforest effect, and he says, he's got this retreat center in Costa Rica at about 2,500 feet overlooking a lake, and it's rainforest, surrounded by rainforest. And he says it's so alive, you can hardly believe it. It's so beautiful, you can hardly believe it. And yet, it's a rainforest. So he said you can make a path in a rainforest, but to do that, you need strong arms and a really sharp machete. and you've got to work and work and work. And he says if you're out there for 2 or 3 days, you can eventually make a path in the rainforest. But if you decide, I'm tired, I need a break, I want to go on vacation for a week or two, when you come back, you probably won't find the path because the rainforest has overgrown it. And he says that's like the life conditioning and these negative memories and all the years we've spent, negative beliefs that we've spent living from those negative beliefs. We have neural pathways that are like a 12-lane highway that actually were constructed around these negative beliefs about self, these core negative beliefs. And he says if you have tools like the Reality Management Worksheet, the Mind Shifter Targeted Journaling Tool, or Diedrich Wolsack's 6-step Choose Again forgiveness process, if you have effective tools like this, you can carve a path. If you don't keep at it day after day, the path will disappear. If you do keep at it day after day, you can eventually carve a 12-lane highway through the rainforest, through the neural pathways in your mind. You can work to the point where you've dismantled a significant proportion or percentage of those negative core beliefs, and they are no longer there to drive your behavior and your negative emotions. So we encourage people to do that soon and often, and then give us a call. We're down to about 1.5 minutes, so I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Ryce.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. And I was just looking that guy up. So that was the 6 Steps to Freedom book that you were talking about?
No. This is choose-again.com.
Oh, okay.
And when you go there, he has a 6-step forgiveness process, Choose Again forgiveness process that's available absolutely free, and it is the Choose Again 6 Steps to Freedom that's at the top of the website.
Okay.
But
awesome.
But there's a
very good
a simple HTML that you can download, just like you and Michael let people download the Reality Management Worksheet.
Great. Very good.
All right. Have a lovely show.
Thank you.